We are in week 19, December 14th through 17th. Our topic for this week is dividing fractions by mixed numbers. We actually have 4 I can statements this week. The first one is I can interpret and compute quotients of fractions. You may remember we had that one last week as well. So quotient is the answer to a division problem. So we want to be able to find the answer to a division problem involving fractions. I can change mixed numbers into improper fractions. If you remember, mixed numbers have a whole number and a fraction, so like 3.5. And then improper fractions is where the top number is bigger than the bottom number. I can find the blank of any blank number. I can find the reciprocal of any mixed number. So if you remember last week, the reciprocal of any number is when you multiply them together and you get 1. So the reciprocal of a fraction is just flipping it. So we'll see what to do to find the reciprocal of a mixed number. And then finally, the big one, I can divide mixed numbers. So the big key thing to remember is what's in bold there. Always change mixed numbers into improper fractions before changing the division problem into a multiplication problem. So you know how we keep, change, flip? You have to change them to improper fractions before you keep, change, flip, okay? So let's kind of look at this first one. First, rewrite the mixed numbers as improper fractions. So we've got 2 3/4 divided by 1 1/3. So if you remember to change them, we kind of do this little circle-y thing where we multiply and then add. So for 2 3/4, we would do 4 times 2, which is 8. Plus 3, so 8 plus 3, 9, 10, 11. So it'd be 11, and we keep the same bottom number, which is 4. And then for the other one, we have 1 1/3, and if we do that circle-y thing, we do 3 times 1, which is 3, plus the 1 on top is 4, so we get 4/3. So really the problem we're doing is 11/4 divided by 4/3. Well, now we're going to rewrite the division problem as a multiplication problem and multiply. So now we're going to keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the first one as 11/4. We're going to change our sign from division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip. So instead of 4/3, we're going to have 3/4. And now we can just multiply. So 11 times 3, that's going to be our new top number, so that's 33. 4 times 4 gives us 16. Now that's an improper fraction, so our answer is right, but it's not in the best form. We always want to kind of simplify it and try to make it simplified or a mixed number if possible. So what we need to do is basically 33 divided by 16. 16 can go into 33 2 times, it's 32, and then we have 1 left over. So to write that as our answer, the number of whole times 16 went into 33, that was 2, so that's our whole number. Our remainder, 1, is our new top number, our numerator, and our bottom number stays the same. It's also what we divided by, which is 16. So our answer for this one would be 2 1/16. Let's try some more. So let's change these to improper fractions first. So 5.5, if we do that circly thing and multiply and add, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 would be 11, so it's 11/2 divided by, and let's do the same thing over here. Let's do 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2, 3, 4, 5, that'd be 5/3. But now we've got to keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the first one the same, change the sign to multiply, and now flip the second one. And now we can multiply. The 11 times 3 gives us 33, 5 times 2 gives us 10. Although that answer is right, we would get points taken off because it's not simplified. It's not made into a mixed number yet. So we need to, and the reason we know it can be a mixed number is because the top number is bigger than the bottom. If the top number isn't bigger than the bottom, you cannot make a mixed number, okay? So we need to change this. So we need to do 33 divided by 10. Well, how many times can 10 go into 33? 3 times, right? Which would give us 30, and we get 3 left over. So to write that as our answer, the number of whole times that 10 went into 33 was 3 times, so that's our whole number. Our remainder was 3, so that's our new numerator, our new top number. And our bottom number stays the same. It's also what we divided by. So we're going to get 3 3/10. All right, let's try the next one. So once again, we're going to do that circle-y thing to both of them where we multiply and then add. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 gives us 12. So we're going to have 12/5 divided by, and then 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 gives us 3. So we're going to have 3/2. But now we've got to keep, change, flip. Don't forget to keep, change, flip. That's what a lot of people do. They just stop here and they go ahead and multiply, but we still have to flip it. So we're going to have 12/5 times 2/3. And when we multiply, we get 24/15. So I need to do 24 divided by 15. 15 goes into 24 one time. And it's going to have 9 left over. So to write that as my answer, let's see, I'm kind of running out of room here. I'm going to go up this way since I've got room up here. So to write that as my answer, I'd get 1 and 9's left over. So that's my new top number over the same bottom number, which is 15. But that's not simplified. Can you think of a number that can go to both 9 and 15? Can't we divide both by 3? So that would give you 3/5. So our final answer, I know I'm kind of like going up my page here, but it would be 1 3/5 after we've simplified everything. You can't leave off that whole number once you're done. Now I did want to show you real quick that we could have simplified before we ever multiplied. If we had the 12/5 times a 2/3, which is what we had right here, we could say, well, 12 and 3, can't that be simplified? Because remember, the rule is we just have to have one from the top and one from the bottom. And 3 can go into each of those. So 3 can go into 12 4 times, and 3 can go into 3 1 time. So I would have gotten 8/5, which guess what? When I change 8/5 into a mixed number, I get 1 3/5. So then I wouldn't have to simplify after I've changed it to a mixed number. So that's always an option too. All right, so let's go ahead and try our next one. We have 5 2/3 divided by 3 3/16. So let's go ahead and change them to improper fractions first. So I'm going to do 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So I'm going to write it kind of over here, 17/3. And then let's change this one, 16 times 3. Let me do that out on the side of my paper. 48 plus the 3 on top. 48, 49, 50, 51. So it would be 51/16. But then we can keep, change, flip. So we'll have 17/3 times 16/51. And if I multiply that, 17 times 16, if I do 17 times 16, I'll do it up here, 42, 71272, so 272. And 51 times 3, what I'm going to do in my head is do 50 times 3, which is 150. And then do 1 times 3, which is 3. So 150 plus 3 is 153. That's improper, so we've got to fix it. We've got to do 272 divided by 153. It can only go in there one time. With 119 left over. So we're going to have 1 and 119 over 153. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you this one is hard, y'all, okay? Because would you believe that 17 could go into both 119 and 153? I know. I don't know if I would have known it either, actually. But if we divide them both by 17, we actually end up with our simplified one as 1 7/9. Now that one's crazy. I promise I won't get you one that you have to simplify by 17, because that one's kind of hard. We could have simplified before we multiplied if we had 17 over 3 times the 16 over 51. If you knew that 17 could go into both of these, you could have simplified and made that 1 and made this 3. And then when we multiplied, we would have gotten 16 over 9, which would simplify to 1 7/9. So that one was hard. Maybe kind of ignore that one. The simplifying part anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one. 11 1/9. We need to change that to an improper fraction. So 9 times 11 is 99, plus 1 is 100, so 100 over 9. And we're going to divide that by, we got to do the same thing over here. So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 7 is 27 over 10. Now we've got to keep, change, flip. So keep, change our sign, and flip. And now if we multiply, 10 times 100 is 1,000. 9 times 27, I can write out here. Is 243. Now that's improper, so I've got to fix it. So I need to say how many times can 243 go into 1,000? Well, if I estimate and I say, well, 243 is close to 250. I know that 250 can go into 1,000 4 times. So I really think it's going to be 4. But let's see what 243 times 4 is. It's 972. Which is going to give me 28 left over. So our answer is 4 and 28 over 243. Once again, that's a big one, kind of a hard one. I'll try to keep them away from doing that on quizzes. Okay, let's try our last two. We've got 3 and 5/6 divided by 1. Now this one should be pretty easy because we know anything divided by 1 will give it to us. So let's go ahead and try it, okay? So we first have to change 3 and 5/6 to an improper fraction. So 6 times 3 is 18 plus 5, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So we're going to get 23 over 6 divided by, and it's going to be 1 over 1. But then we've got to keep, change, flip. So 23 over 6 times 1 over 1 will give us 23 over 6, which guess what? When I do 23 divided by 6, it goes in there 3 times, which is 18. Gives us 5 left over. So we're going to get 3 and 5/6. So we're going to get what we started with, which makes sense because when you divide anything by 1, you get that number again. So like 10 divided by 1 is 10. 5 divided by 1 is 5. So 3 and 5/6 divided by 1 should give me 3 and 5/6. So it makes sense. All right, this one we've got 6, which is the same thing as 6 over 1. So we're going to do 6 over 1 divided by, now let's change this one. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 plus 4 is 60. So 60 over 7. So now we've got to keep, change, flip. So keep our first one the same. Change our sign to multiply. Flip the second one. We get 7 over 60. Let's try finishing our last one here. It cut me off for some reason. So 6 times 7, that would give us 42, and 1 times 60 gives us 60. We can simplify that by dividing both of those by 6, because 6 can go into each of those evenly, and that gives us 7/10. Now, another way we could have done that was we could have simplified before we multiplied. When we had this part, when we had 6 over 1 times 7 over 60, we could have seen and said, okay, 6 and 60. 6 can go into both of those. So 6 can go into 6 one time, and 6 can go into 60 10 times. And then when we multiplied, we would have had 7/10 automatically. We wouldn't have had to simplify. So that's another option.